the new commissioners to the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission was sworn in today, taking on the task of spearheading the anti-graft war in the country. Phillip Kinisu is the new chairman of the commission, a seat that has seen all its previous occupants exit in whims of controversy. KTN's Sharon Womanyi takes us back through this history, even as the country looks to a future of a more stringent fight on corruption.
I, Phillip Kinisu, having been appointed the chairperson to the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission.
After months of a crippled commission, the EACC received a breath back to life on Monday as 5 commissioners were sworn into office. Rose Mgoi Mtambo Masharia, Dabar Maalim Abdi,
do swear that I will at all times
Paul Mwaniki Gashoka,
discharge the trust, perform the functions, and exercise the powers.
Sophia Lupuchirit,
favor, bias, affection,
and Phillip Kinisu,
so help me God,
who takes up the chairman's position, finally took oath of office after their nomination by President Uhuru Kenyatta in November 2015 and vetting by the National Assembly in December.
And we are aware that the road ahead is not a smooth one, but we do not go to give up, because as a number of people have said, corruption in our country is endemic. Perhaps we are at a place where we may not be able to get ourselves out. We refuse to accept that.
You take office at a time when the nation's anti-corruption narrative is binary, one that shows that the government is pulling itself together to fight this vice, and another that accuses the government of continuing to perpetrate grand theft.
The 5 were nominated after a rather controversial exit of former commissioners Mumo Matemu, Irene Keino, and Jen Onsongo mid-2015. Not a new picture, as Kenya's war on corruption has been dogged by intrigues from the very beginning. It started with this man, John Haron Mwau, who in December 1997 was appointed the first director of the then newly created Kenya Anti-Corruption Authority. But the ex-policeman would soon fall into trouble when he sought to prosecute 4 top treasury and tax officials on alleged fraud on non-collection of taxes relating to wheat and sugar imports. A tribunal was quickly put together to prosecute Mwau, and in November of 1998, he resigned, sending Kenya's war on graft on a spiral. It turned out that the Kenya Anti-Corruption Authority had been given powers to prosecute without an amendment to the Constitution that at that time confined such powers to the office of the Attorney General.
Who gave you authority to write these things to me? Have you read the Prevention of Corruption Act?
Justice Aaron Ringera, who as Solicitor General had been a witness at the Mwau Tribunal, was later appointed as the new director of CASA in March of 1999. But on December 22nd of 2000, the courts finally dealt CASA a death blow, declaring it unconstitutional. With pressure mounting on the KANU government from both the IMF and the World Bank, the government appointed an anti-corruption police unit to take over all the 139 cases that were being investigated by the authority. But the unit's mandate remained unclear, and its independence was questioned by critics. A ray of hope came in 2003 when, in the early days of the NAC administration, the Kenya Anti-Corruption and Economic Crimes Act was passed, putting in place the Kenya Anti-Corruption Commission, KACC. And once again, Aaron Ringera was given the job of reviving Kenya's faltering war on graft. Ringera would become famous for his Shakespeare quotes and promises of fire and brimstone for the corrupt. But Parliament refused to endorse his reappointment. Ringera bowed out on 30th of September 2009. Ringera declared that the war on corruption would never succeed until the Commission was given powers to prosecute, to seize assets and passports, and require public officials to declare wealth whenever it deemed fit.
And for those who perennially complain that cars only deals with the small fish, let me ask you to reflect on this.
But the Commission was in for more drama. Next on stage, Professor Patrick Loch Otieno Lumumba.
The next 2 to 3 weeks, we expect that about between 5 and 10 high voltage files.
PLO would hit the ground running, even joining street demonstrations on occasion. But curtains would close on his commission stage in the middle of 2010 when he declared that he was training his guns on top officials and members of parliament.
Fight against corruption will be conducted without fear, favor, or ill will, for the sake of this country and for the sake of this generation and generations yet to be born.
That would pave way for a fresh controversy over the appointment of Mumo Matemu as the chairperson of the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission. When he was nominated by the Grand Coalition principals, President Mwai Kibaki and Prime Minister Raila Odinga, several integrity issues came to the fore, leading a parliamentary committee on legal affairs to recommend that he be dropped. The decision was later reversed during debate on the report about him. In March 2015, lawyer Geoffrey Oriaro, now deceased, petitioned to have Matemu and his deputy Irene Kano removed from office, arguing that the two were incapable of leading the war against corruption. MPs voted in favor of removing them and gave the recommendation to the president. A tribunal was formed to investigate Matemu and EACC's other two commissioners, but they would all resign before investigations began. And now, next on stage is Phillip Kinisu, with all eyes on his script following a chain of dramatic exits by his predecessors. Questions asked include, is the Anti-Graft Commission one that has enemies within? Is it independent? Or is it an institution used as a smokescreen as the war on graft continues on a limbo? The new commissioners assume office amidst an escalated fight against corruption in the country. But the biggest battle they may have to fight is that of restoring public confidence in the EACC, an institution that has for a long time been branded a toothless dog. Sharon Momanyi, KTN News at the Supreme Court, Nairobi.